Hey guys, it's Gabriel here again, and in this video, I'm going to share with you how I hacked my brain to feel motivation even when I don't feel motivated to work or do anything. And this is actually a very simple trick that you can do. You can actually feel this motivation. So I'll be using this strategy to get myself to do things that I don't feel like doing, and I believe it's a big part of how I was able to achieve a level of financial freedom, happiness, meaningful relationships, and happiness in my marriage and family. And I believe that anyone can learn how to do this if you just follow these few steps and stick to it all the way to the end of this video. Now, even though in one of my last video, I spoke about motivation versus system and how you shouldn't depend on motivation, you should depend on system in order to achieve long-term goals. Simply because motivation is a feeling that does not last and you cannot depend on it. So I'll put a link to the video somewhere here or in the description if you want to watch that. But from time to time, we still need that initial motivation, right? To kick our ass and to get ourselves to do things that we don't want to do instead of just sitting around and watching Netflix. And also do things without any excuse. So before I dive into today's topic, I really highly appreciate the early thumbs up for this video. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. This is a channel for entrepreneurs who want to have it all. Every week, I post videos on how I achieved financial freedom, optimal health, hacking my happiness level, productivity, and creating a happy marriage. If you're into any of that stuff, do subscribe to my channel. So the first thing you want to do is to stop pumping yourself with easy dopamine. And to explain that, I have to share with you a quick story and an experiment I did on myself. So in my last video, I actually declared an ambitious goal to build a $100 million company. Now, I didn't know how to reach there because I've never done it before, but I knew that there's a lot of challenges and a lot of things that I have to do and a lot of things on my plate. However, over the past couple of months, I realized that my motivation level were pretty low. You know, I was sleeping later, I was waking up later, I was binge watching Netflix, and I was eating junk food, more than I should. And whenever I was having free time, instead of reading, upgrading myself, watching educational videos, which I normally do, I'll be playing mobile games and I would watch Netflix again. And I even stopped doing meditation and any kind of mindfulness practice. And I noticed this habit was slowly taking over my life. And every time I have a break or I ended a meeting on Zoom, I would just simply take out my phone subconsciously and my brain would just automatically go to my mobile games or my Netflix. And it got to a point where I was rushing out some work and it was past deadline. And all my brain wants to do is just to play games and watch Netflix instead of working on what I needed to do. And it got to the point that it became too painful, right? Because I was missing deadlines and I felt that I was letting some of my team members down and all kinds of stuff that was going on. I decided that I was just going to delete Netflix, delete my games, and that's where the magic starts to happen. So after my usual meeting, I'll usually take out my phone out of habit and I'll go to my games. And this is again done subconsciously. But because there were no more games, because I removed the game, I noticed myself, right? I noticed my brain got confused. And then I remembered that I deleted the games and all the other apps that were distracting me. So what I will do now is I'll have a moment of consciousness and then I will decide to put my phone down and do nothing for 5 to 10 minutes. And suddenly, almost like magic, okay, I'm not even exaggerating this, I felt the urge and the motivation to continue working on my business and to do the things that were really beneficial to me. So usually after I end work, I will usually go up to have dinner with my family and spend some time with my wife and my daughter. But I realized that I started to have this bad habit. I would just go to my TV, I'll turn on my Netflix and I'll start binge watching on certain shows, even as I was eating dinner. But because I removed the app, I had nothing else to do. And because I have nothing else to do, there was a moment of boredom and a moment of consciousness where I realized that, hey, I already deleted this and I have nothing else to do. And then suddenly there was, after about 10 minutes of embracing boredom, there was this urge to watch educational videos that I've purchased a long time ago on my My Valley app and Masterclass app. And I never really got down to watching it, right? I'm sure some of you understand that you buy a bunch of stuff and you didn't watch it. I was also much more conscious and present, having conversation with my wife and to play with my 8-year-old daughter. So day by day, I started realizing that I'm going back to my old routine of self-development and doing things that were beneficial to me instead of things that were destructive to me. My motivation to do deep work, to read, to watch educational videos, to spend time with my family came back instead of binge watching Netflix and instead of playing games. And all this was effortlessly. I didn't have to hide myself or even force myself. The motivation came in and I just simply followed that motivation. and I actually started enjoying all these things that I'm doing again, and I'm doing more and more. So what's the point of telling you this story? So I want to bring you back to one of my previous videos where I talk about this chemical or neurotransmitter called dopamine. So basically your brain produces dopamine, a chemical that makes you feel good whenever you do something that you enjoy. And some people call it the chemical of motivation. And it basically motivates you to do stuff like, basic stuff like eating, working, seeking entertainment, deep working, reading. All these are things that produces dopamine. But the problem is that your brain does not know what is good or bad for you. It will just simply seek the easiest way to produce dopamine so that you feel good. And here's the thing, when you read and you improve yourself, your brain produces dopamine. But when you watch Netflix or play games, your brain also produces dopamine at a higher level. And the issue here is that the easy stuff like games and Netflix, because you pretty much don't have to do anything, is easier way to get a high level of dopamine in a short period of time. So when your brain gets that high level of dopamine, anything lesser doesn't satisfy. And this is why if you're playing games, okay, and you're pumping your brain full of high dopamine, you will find hard after that to do things that truly benefits you, like reading or working on your business, because it no longer satisfies. It's kind of like people who are addicted on drugs. There's this term for addicts called chasing the high. And basically it means that they will always constantly be chasing the previous high, and they need more of the same drug to achieve the high they ever felt the first time. You see, drug abusers, especially heroin addicts, the reason why they are addicted to it is because when they take drugs, their brain releases a huge amount of dopamine, an unnatural amount of dopamine, and they will even stop doing the most basic things for survival, such as eating and showering. Because eating and showering gives you a level of dopamine, but it's no longer giving you the level of dopamine that the drug is giving you. And so those small little things that used to give you some level of dopamine no longer satisfy you, and therefore you give up all of that and you just go for the drug instead. You even get dopamine when you eat. So when you're getting crazy level of dopamine from a drug, eating itself no longer satisfies you, and that's why many addicts don't even eat, which is a basic survival thing. Many drug addicts would even stop caring about their crying baby and sometimes even let it die. That's the extreme. But sometimes if you think about it, that's kind of like us. Sometimes we rather be on our phones and social media than to play and to build meaningful bond with our kids. So what is the solution to all this? In fact, awareness is the first step to change. So I'd like you to do something. What is your addiction right now? It could be social media, it could be games, it could be Netflix, it could be porn. If it's comfortable for you, put it in the comment section right now. The solution to this is actually really simple and common sense, but the problem is common sense are not usually common practice. So the solution is to get rid of the things that you are doing that is pumping an unhealthy level of dopamine in your brain. And once again, that could be games, Netflix, porn, junk food, and maybe even drugs. And here's the thing, when you are trying to get rid of this temptation, don't even trust your willpower, and that's one of the key. You will find that your brain's desire for dopamine will actually be higher than your willpower. So how do you get rid of the temptation? And how do you not rely on your willpower? So that leads me to number 2. Change or redesign your environment so that you break your pattern. Again, don't trust your willpower. This is why many drug addicts who wants to recover will check themselves into a rehab. So here's an example. I didn't just say I will not play games. But the problem is that if I find that game on my phone, the temptation will always be there. So what I did was that I completely deleted the game and Netflix from my phone. By the way, if you find it hard to even just do that, that means you're super addicted and there's simply a part of you called the chimp who doesn't want to do that. So instead of putting a hard stop when you are wrestling and struggling with your inner subconscious or subconscious chimp, you can actually negotiate with your internal chimp by telling your chimp that you will delete the game for a week or a month so it doesn't seem so hard, right? Like you're deleting forever. But at least a week or a month is better than playing every single day. And that will make it easier. So if you want to find out more about how you can overcome the internal chimp that's always trying to tell you to do something else that's not benefiting you, you can read this book called The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peter about your subconscious chimp. And by the way, even after I deleted my phone, see, here's the scary part. Out of habit, my subconscious chimp will still pick up the phone after every single meeting, right? After meeting or after I have my break, my Even though that game is no longer in my phone, I will still pick it up unconsciously and I will scroll to the page that has the gaming app. And then I realize that I have deleted it. That's how scary your subconscious stream is. Okay, that's how scary your habits are. So, which is why you cannot trust your willpower, because you will still do it out of habit. So once you remove the temptation, here's what I noticed next. Point number 3 is embrace boredom. Just like a drug addict on road to recovery, there will always be a withdrawal effect. And thankfully, you will not have the physical withdrawal like a drug addict having cold turkey and high blood pressure, which can be really torturing. Now, unless you're really trying to cut off drug addiction, which could be another problem by itself, seek professional help. But if you are just simply removing things like Netflix, pornography, junk food, you realize that you have mental withdrawal. And the thing is that you usually have to deal with this thing called boredom. So once I started to remove my game, and out of habit, I will still reach out to my phone. And then I have this moment of shock consciousness where I realize that I've deleted it and remember why I deleted it. I now get to decide in a short moment, what should I do? I can either decide to find more ways to pump my brain with more dopamine, or I can just simply embrace boredom and allow my brain to kind of have a reset, which is also a form of dopamine detox. And I personally believe that embracing boredom is one of the hardest things to do in today's world. You know, we can get anything and everything with a simple tap on our phone and instant gratification anytime. But when you embrace boredom, something amazing happens. Your dopamine level resets and your brain actually has the ability to find ways to entertain itself because it cannot stand not doing anything, and this is where creativity and sparks happen. There are now more and more research linking boredom with creativity. I'll put the article link in the description. So if you think about it, many of us are pumping our brain full of dopamine to the point that we don't allow creativity to flow. We don't allow sparks. We don't allow ideas to flow that could really be the solution to some of the problem that we are really trying to solve. If you think about it, many famous inventor, philosopher in ancient times and in history, they can think about deep issues. They can write books and scriptures that until today, mankind today will still refer to it for their lifestyle and to decide on moral issues. You have to really be in tune with yourself in order to write, for example, the Bible. And if you really think about it, the reason why many of them were able to do that is because they had nothing else to do. They have no TV, no phones, not even porn. See, Jordan Peterson actually said that men now have the ability, the choice to see more naked women in a day than the entire lifetime of people in the past. And I think that's really scary to a certain extent because we are really blocking ideas from flowing and creativity from flowing, and so many problems can be solved if we just simply stop and think. When you stop distracting yourself and embracing boredom, your brain starts to find anything else to generate dopamine. So now that you find the things that you initially do not want to do, they become easy because they are also a source of dopamine, just that they were not as high as other temptation that you used to have. So once I started removing the temptation of games and Netflix, I started having motivation to read. I started having motivation to write and shoot this YouTube video. And I started having motivation to work my business, to spend time with my wife and my daughter, and all the other stuff that I was neglecting. And I truly believe that even if you just spend 10 minutes to embrace boredom, you will really feel the effects of what I'm talking about and immediately feel that motivation to do what's beneficial to you. So here's a summary if you're not motivated to do the things that you need to do. Number 1, identify the things in your life that's pumping a huge amount of dopamine in your brain. Number 2, proactively remove it and design a new environment. For example, if you're playing too much game, just simply delete that app. If you're watching too many useless YouTube videos, unsubscribe, and you can even turn on certain function in YouTube and tell YouTube not to recommend this type of videos to you. If you're scrolling too much on someone's Instagram that doesn't add any value to your life, simply unfollow them and only follow pages that inspires you. If you're eating too much junk food, throw out all your junk food in your house and replace your fridge with only good food so that you have no choice but good food. Whatever it is, remove and redesign your environment. Number 3, embrace boredom. Boredom is a good thing. It resets your brain and it allows your brain to work for you instead of against you. So let me know if you've gained something from this video and if this video is a wake-up call. I don't believe you've watched all the way for no reasons. If you're still watching, go on and take 5 minutes to do the 3 things that I've mentioned. Start removing those temptations and you will immediately feel the motivation after embracing boredom. Let me know in the comment section as well what's your biggest takeaway, and remember to give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm so that this video can reach out to more people who needs to watch this. And remember to consider subscribing to my channel. So that's all I have for you today. Bye for now.